Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing well. Recently, Polyphony Digital has announced another exhibition series on Gran Turismo 7 once again. In my opinion, finally. Well, this video pretty much shows the first round of the Nations Cup we had yesterday, on Wednesday evening. And yeah, in my case, unfortunately, I wasn't really able to join the top split due to my driver rating at the moment. But nevertheless, we joined the third split for the first round of the Nations Cup in this season, where it was all about the Group 2 cars, except for the COK LM, for the F1 GTR, as well as for the Toyota GT1 at Sardinia A on forward. It was quite an interesting round. Like here in this clip here, you're going to see me having my first attempt on my qualifying lap, where unfortunately I kinda made a small error at the exit of the final corner in sector 1, where I was on the throttle a bit too early there, and yeah, because of that I managed to spin in the end, which was not really ideal, because for this qualifying session we only had like 5 minutes in total. But due to the high tire wear we had for this round in general, which was at ×8, as well as us using the soft tire compound as well as the medium tires for the race, but for this qualifying obviously we had to use the soft tires in order to set our fastest lap times. But because of that, this is pretty much the out lap I wanted to show you here, where I still try to look after my tires, not trying to push them really hard, but at the same time I still try to push for a tiny bit in order to build up the tire temperature for my qualifying lap here. Like here I did a small mistake here for whatever reason, I went onto the grass. But nevertheless, for the out lap here, you can also see my brake input here. I wasn't really trying to brake at 100% every single time. The brake balance I was using for my qualifying lap was also at +5, which you can see here down below. And you can also see that Lo Burgio, I would like to apologize if I pronounced your name wrongly here, but managed to set the fastest lap time with a 32.0 in this race, which was quite decent in my opinion. Like the lap times the top speed guys were doing were around 31.5, 31.6, around that area. And they were all using the NSX, the 16 NSX car, because for this car, not really for this car, sorry, that car was pretty much the meta car for this race here, but for me personally I wanted to use a different car, where I opted to use the Audi RS5 DTM car, because for me personally I kinda enjoyed driving this car more than the NSX. But now on my qualifying lap here, you can also see that I managed to hook up the final corner in sector 1 a little bit better than on my previous attempt. It wasn't really perfect because the first sector was a 31.7. When I did few practice sessions before, I was doing like 31.6, and on my time trial session at 31.5 even. But nevertheless, 0.7 is not really too bad. For the exit of the left-hander before the uphill section, I was really optimizing the driver line as well. For here, there's a little bump on the track where the car can unsettle for a bit here, which you were able to see here. But sector 2 split is a 2.0, which isn't really that optimal. Like I lost around 2/10 in total there. And this is like the corner where, not really the final corner, but the fast left-hander in sector 3, where the Audi struggled a lot compared to the NSX due to its understeer it had. But I will talk about the main strength of this car afterwards, like for that race. But here we are also about to finish this lap, which is going to be a 31.9. It wasn't really that optimal, but nevertheless we still managed to secure the pole position, which you can also see here because I kind of passed forward towards the end of the session. But yeah, it was a fun session. And because of the tire wear being that high at ×8, and all of us having, or like, I don't want to say having, but all of us had to use the 2 tire compounds for this race, which were the soft tire compound as well as the medium tire compound. And usually if your car is like quite heavy, because for the race we also have fuel consumption on board, that means that the heavier your car is, the more it will also wear your tires in the end. And because of that, I also tried to use the medium tires right away, so that I could use the soft tires towards the end of the stint, which would also mean that my car around that stage would also be like much lighter than at the beginning of the race, which you will see on the upcoming clip, because finally we are about to start the race. And I think before I will also talk about the strength and the weaknesses of the car, I will also like to mention that as the race, or like the whole session in general, has such a high tire wear multiplier, I really try to be really gentle with the brake input as well as with my steering input in order to save my tires. And as the Audi is a FR car compared to the NSX being a MR car, that means that the front tires would also wear a lot more compared to the MR cars such as the NSX. And with Sardinia being a high-speed circuit, where it has such a high-speed corner in sector 3, which would also wear the front tires a lot, this is where I really try to be careful with the with my driving in general, which you will see throughout the entire race. But and you can also pay attention to the way how I brake, how I also manage to steer with the red dot just right above the speed of my car. But I think finally I can also try to talk about the strength, or like the strengths and the weaknesses of the car. But I think I will also like to mention, or like start it right away by talking about the strengths of this car, which is the top speed. And this is pretty much the only car within the Group 2 class where it is able to use the DRS for pretty much the entire circuit. And you can only activate, or like start to activate the DRS from 140 kilometers per hour or onwards. So pretty much from 140 kilometers per hour you're allowed to use the DRS. And you should have also seen like my thumb throughout the entire race, because it was always stuck on my DRS button on my steering wheel, so that I could immediately use the DRS right away. And because of that, I was always able to slightly pull away then the NSX on the straight line, which would also help me a little bit in order to defend my position, right? Because for this race here we had another custom slipstream setting, or like another custom slipstream being used, which was like quite helpful. Like compared to the daily races, the slipstream strength in my opinion wasn't really as strong as it used to be, which is really nice to have in my opinion, because obviously if the dirty air, this is something I also wanted to mention, like the dirty air was almost non-existent for this race, but with the dirty air being almost non-existent in this race, and that means that you can kind of easily follow the cars in front of you. But if the slipstream strength setting is set to strong, then you can always easily overtake the cars in front of you, right? And in my opinion, if the strength is like a little bit weakened, that means that you also have to put a little bit more effort into your overtaking skills. Because in my opinion, if you want to overtake somebody, then it has to be due to your own driving skill and not really based on the environment, right? If I can put it that way. But nevertheless, we are also about to enter the third lap here right now. I also have to mention that I started practicing right after the first slot has finished, because this is something I wanted to mention at the beginning of the video actually. Like I wanted to apologize that I wasn't really able to upload any videos from this week, like from this week's daily races, because I've been quite busy with my private life and with my work recently, which obviously was my priority, right? But nevertheless, I had the time to do the first round of the Nations Cup yesterday, but I was really able to join the first slot unfortunately, so I had to start from the scratch before the second slot has started. But nevertheless, with this track being a little bit easier compared to the other tracks, because it mainly has like straight lines, right? I wanted to try to see if there are like any alternatives than the NSX, because I wanted to use a car other than the NSX to see if those cars could beat the meta car as well. So I've seen from Japan, like from Tokari-san, that he was using the Lexus RCF, and he also managed to do, or like he also managed to perform quite well there. But in my opinion, I wanted to use like something else which, yeah, nobody has used so far, like based on what I saw or like what I was able to see yesterday. And with the Audi RS5, it's like, oh, okay, you could use the DRS function, and this car has like a slightly better top speed than the NSX anyway. So if you want to overtake the cars in front of you, then you could not really easily do it, but it would be easier to do that compared to using the NSX on the other hand, right? But this is pretty much the strength of the Audi RS5, that because of the DRS that you're able to use, that you pretty much have like a better top speed than the NSX. And for example, for this corner here, or for the fast left-hander in sector 3, if you wanted to use the DRS in the middle of the corner, obviously you would remove a little bit of downforce, like a little bit of rear downforce, I mean, and that means that your rear would be a little bit loose, right? Like it would lose a little bit of its stability. On the other hand, if you do that, you can kind of force the car to rotate a little bit more. And so, like if your car really understeered through this corner here, for example, you could use the DRS a little bit earlier to rotate the car in order to still make the corner in the end. It was a little bit difficult to do it. I think if I had the time to practice or like to prepare myself for this run a little bit more, obviously my qualifying performance could have been better, but also my race pace here. Like here, 33.3 on the lead with the Audi wasn't really that bad, but in general my pace wasn't really that optimal, if I can say that. Like I was still trying to figure out the way how I had to brake in order to save the front tires as much as possible, because the front tires on this car would wear a lot more compared to the NSX, and I had to drive really smoothly here in order to preserve my tires till the end of the stint. And before I will talk about the strategy here, because we still have a little bit of time here, right? I can also talk about the weaknesses of this car, which is the high-speed cornering compared to the NSX. So you are able to see that, well, like throughout the entire video, you're going to see that this car was like pretty competitive in sector 1 as well as in sector 2. Or let's say relatively competitive compared to the NSX. But once we approach the high-speed left-hander here, I was losing so much cornering speed compared to the NSX because of the way how this car was like. I think it had like less downforce than the NSX, which means that this car wasn't really able to carry as much speed as possible compared to the NSX. But nevertheless, it was still fairly decent there, because for the back straight, or like for the start finish straight, I was able to use the DRS once again and pull away slightly once again compared to the NSX drivers behind of me. And here I did like another side mistake there, which wasn't really needed. But this was pretty much like the way how I had to try and race here, because I was trying to preserve my tires, like to save my tires till the end of the stint. Because with the tire wear multiplier being set to ×8, that means that if you did like any aggressive driving on the track, or if your car was sliding ever so slightly, that would negatively affect your tires in the end, which wasn't really ideal, right? Because the strategy for this race was, if you were starting on mediums, that you had to do 12 laps on the medium tires at least, and then you would finish the race with this set of soft tires by driving the remaining 6 laps. It doesn't really sound that harsh, right? Like only doing 6 laps on this circuit here, but with the soft tires being so sensitive compared to the medium tires, furthermore with the soft tires wearing a lot more quicker compared to the medium tires, you really had to be careful on your soft tire stand, and unfortunately my soft tire stand wasn't really ideal as well. But I mean, you will see that anyway. I mean, I'm not going to talk till the end of the video because that would be way too long, but I just wanted to share all the important informations with you guys so that you're aware of what I was doing here. And maybe I'm going to win this race, I don't know, you will see it. But yeah, it was like really fun to drive the Audi RS5. It was like surprisingly competitive as well. Obviously not in time trial conditions, potentially, because obviously if you have the meta car you would still try to push for the last remaining time there, but once it really mattered for the qualifying session, I think it could have got like within 2/10 or maybe 1/10 of the NSX. And with this car having a better top speed, maybe it could have fared quite well against the meta cars on top speed. Yeah, unfortunately I wasn't able to see that yesterday because my driver rating was really bad, or like it was really affected due to the I think it was from the Group 4 daily race at Brands Hatch we did a few weeks ago, or maybe it was from last week, because yeah, I tried to use different cars there, and unfortunately I didn't really have a lot of good races there, which affected my DR a lot. But nevertheless, I still hope I can maybe try to build up my driver rating once again, so that also for you guys I can also show some top split races once again, because I think you guys would like to watch me driving against the top split drivers, especially against the world champions. And for me personally, it's always a pleasure to drive against them. It's not something against the drivers I was racing against here right now, because these guys also belong to the very best in my opinion. And they were also driving really well, and some of them also have a lot of potential for the future as well, in my opinion. But I think if you always drive against the world champions, I think this is something else, right? So I will try to see if I can grind a little bit of DR once again, or like manage to improve my DR once again. But let's see for that. But for this race, it was quite fun, even though the multiplier was maybe a bit too high in my opinion. But because of that, this kind of forced us to look after our tires, which I also kind of missed, like having these kind of races, because back in GT Sport we were having few races where you had to save your tires a lot, and I was always like I was always able to extract the most out of it, or like one of those guys who always perform quite well in these kind of races. So let's see. I mean, the next round is going to be with the Group 3 cars at Red Bull Ring, and from what I've seen so far, it's pretty much like a replica from the Prague Manufacturers Cup event last year, like from the Prague World Tour event, because for that event we also had the Group 3 cars at Red Bull Ring, where the conditions were also like quite interesting, like quite dynamic, because it also started off with the rain being on the track, and towards the end of the race it would also start to dry up, right? So let's see what kind of car I'll be using there. If you guys have any suggestions which car I should be driving there, you could also leave it down below within the comment sections, then I would also have a look there. Yeah, from my side, I think this is all about this race here. If I forgot to talk about something important here which you guys would like to know, you can also ask these kind of questions down below, which I would also like to answer afterwards. So from my side, as I said, I apologize for my absence for this week, because it's been quite a busy week for me so far. But nevertheless, I'm still here, don't worry about it. And I still would like to try to share my races with you guys in the future. And I also hope you all had some wonderful races yesterday. And yeah, for the next round, I already would like to wish you all the best, and hopefully you all are going to be able to achieve your goals and your results, right? So from my side, I would like to say have a good day, everyone, and I will leave you yeah, I would like to leave you guys here right now so that you guys can watch the rest of the video without my commentary, because I think some of you would also like to enjoy the driving without any commentary. So I think this is like the perfect balance here, because at the beginning I was able to commentate here for a bit, and then me giving you the opportunity to enjoy the rest of the race with the raw footage. But yeah, this is from my side. Once again, thank you all for the support. I really appreciate that, and hopefully I will be able to see you guys in the next video. So from my side, cheers guys. Have a good day, everyone.